just like doing a whole thing, but I'll just leave it. Hello there. Hello. Oh my god, since you're the first one in chat, Heat of Rivalry episode 4, crazy. And the fact there's only 2 episodes left. Kill me. Hello everybody. Okay. I know, I'm always so shocked when someone... Oh, yay! Congratulations! Let's go. Guarantee you passed all of them. You did amazing with them. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Okay. Weren't you at stream yesterday? Was I just talking in the background as you were doing your final? I don't really know. It's literally just a cello and a violin playing in the background. That's all it is. But I can change it. Oh, you weren't there. Okay. I don't think you missed much. Yesterday was like mainly just yesterday was mainly just, I think I just read. Like there really wasn't anything that happened. Yeah, there was not much going on yesterday, to be totally honest. So, it was pretty chill. Well, I mean, like, a lot happened in the story, but, like, also, yeah. Dude, that fucking picture haunts me. Like, okay, don't get it twisted. I think here's the thing. It's funny every time I see it. Like, I think it's actually hilarious every time I fucking see that photo. But every time I post a TikTok, I'm always like, I know this fucking photo is gonna pop up somewhere. I'm just waiting for the day that I'm scrolling through my For You page and I go to the comments and that photo is just in the comment of some random ass TikTok video. And I'm like, that's the fucking day. That's the fucking day that it's just like, it's out there in the world. Oh, don't worry. I'm well aware it was you. I'm well fucking aware it was you, Bullseye, that spread that photo. And I just prepare myself to see it on every single TikTok I post, that it's gonna be there. And yeah. Fucking, it's a diabolical photo. It really, really is. It's really not great, but you know what? Such is life. Also, I've decided, okay, so here's the thing, because I said I want, don't worry, I saw it. I saw it on the last 2 TikToks. It get posted there. I decided that once we hit 500 subs on YouTube, and like it hits like the milestone and whatever, I'm gonna do a cosplay, probably Garamond Sparrow, but I'll do a poll on like whichever one, and then whichever one you guys want to see, I will get like the wig, the outfit, the full shebang. Probably gonna be Garamond Sparrow because I do just really want to see it, and like do the whole thing because I want to see it. Yeah. So once we hit 500 subs, I'll put a poll up on like who you want to see. 4s will actually just not be on there. I think it'll be everybody but 4s. No, I fucking know you guys would all vote fours. That's why she's not gonna be on there. Yeah, once we'll get memberships, and then I will also like order a wig. I'll do the makeup. I'll do like the full clothing aspect. I'll do the whole thing. I'll get a cool like light setup, whatever, and I'll do a really good cosplay of whatever character. And a couple people are saying Cynthia. That'd be crazy. Are we talking about? I think I'd have to do some construction work. Fours or we don't vote. Okay. I'll add fours in the poll. It'd be really cool if you guys chose someone else. Maybe like Gavin Sparrow or like Emperor Roselle or like Audrey or someone else, but I can add fours and I can do it if I have to. No, I know her fit is cool, and I know that for the bit it would have to be fours, but no, I don't want to do Lanevis. No, literally, Audrey cosplay would be. I'd have to live on the streets if I tried to cos. Actually, you know what? Because I could probably make stuff. I'll do it either way. Either way, I will do it once we get 500 subs. I'll put up the poll and you guys can choose fours, but we'll see. I feel like I could get them. I have a sewing machine. I know how to sew. I could sew it myself. I have a full ass sewing machine. I'll just bring it up and like pop it out and do the whole thing. Also, Cammy, what soup are you making? Is it a French onion soup? Sorry, but is it? Let's start with reading though, because we're 63% of the way down, so we're getting close to the ends a little bit. Perfect. Okay, chapter 638, Poison Expert. While Klein bowed, the purple tint in black-haired Catlia's eyes converged as they seemed to turn into an abyss that could suck up souls. What already exuded an air of mystery had turned even more obvious. She saw that the astral projection deep inside Garamond Sparrow's ether body was pure darkness. In minute areas, there was dark flows with unenduring changes. She saw that Garamond Sparrow's left hand was bright and illusory, but it was stained with the sanguine color that couldn't be dispersed. She saw that the blue luster by Garamond Sparrow's wrists and the silver flow on the left pocket, the colors were bright and obvious, as though they were connected to an illusory. Stacked spirit world. There was the sound of the tide and the illusory sounds of the wind surrounding them. She saw an intermix of green and black luster by Garamond Sparrow's right pocket, as well as 2 points of gold and silver and bronze under his armpit. At his chest there was a deep grayish white like rotting death. 4 mystical items and beyond artifacts or spiritually charms of units of 10. Catlia's eyes were a little dazed as she couldn't help but close them for a moment. She nodded as well. Good evening, Mr. Sparrow. Even as a powerhouse who was famous across the seas, a senior member of the 7 pirate admirals, she seldom saw people who armed themselves to the teeth with beyonder items. Of course, she had also seen people with more mystical items, beyond artifacts, and spiritual charms, but they had secret organizations backing them. They typically had several ships and more than 1,000 pirates under them. Many things need to be turned in, split and shared, as well as sold in order to maintain and strengthen one's faction. Few things could be left in their possession as a result. However, few was relative. They could compare that with Garamond Sparrow presently had, but Catleya had reduced her items to only 2 after several trades. They were 2 items that were sufficiently powerful and mystical enough to match her identity as a pirate admiral. Apart from the lustrous representing different items, Catleya's black eyes, which were slightly purple, could also tell that Garamond wasn't real enough. He seemed to be hidden behind the curtains. This is the reason why he gives me the feeling that he's not a living person at the Tarot Club. He has quite a number of secrets. It involves at least a Sequence 3 saint or an even higher level angel. Catleya didn't dare take another look as the glow in her eyes was no longer profound. Meanwhile, she mocked herself, believing that some of her guesses about the world in Garamond Sparrow were somewhat funny. Involving a Sequence 3 saint or even a higher level angel, there's nothing wrong with that, since he's like me, a member of the Tarot Club. We're definitely involved with this fool who's likely a reawakened ancient god. After exchanging greetings, Catleya did engage in further their small talk. She led Klein towards the cabin. At this moment, the Future, which had been docked, set sail again. A long contour is drawn on the surface of the sea as the cruise set east of the whale fishing route. With that, the tense atmosphere at the Nast harbor disappeared. Gazes from various sailors were cast over. Klein didn't show any signs of pressure as he surveyed the area and saw Tone as though he was back in his old home. There are fewer people than I expected. Catleya turned her head, glanced at him before answering simply, "East of the whaling routes is very dangerous. Only Ludwell heads there frequently as though he's searching for something. Apart from the Future, the pirate crew's other ships wouldn't join us. Similarly, a large number of sailors have been placed on the other ships. Only a minimum number needed to guarantee the successful voyage of the ship has been maintained." A very wise choice, Ludwell. The Admiral held Ludwell. Mr. Hangman mentioned him a long time ago. He said that even the beginning, to study Sonia C's eastern end of navigation. Klein nodded a little without a word. This is Garamond Sparrow's bearing. He silently observed the surroundings and realized that the deck and cabin are sparse and covered with mysterious and abstract symbols. As a whole, it looked like a gigantic ritualistic magic ceremony. It's like the Golden Dream. It's a sailboat of mystery, but it's not the level of a ghost ship compared to Admiral Stars and Vice Admiral Iceberg Tracy, who has only become a pirate admiral for the past few months. Clearly is considerably more inferior. The Black Death has nothing special about it. Klein retracted his gaze and followed Catleya to the cabin's entrance. Waiting here in the main dungarees and a white shirt. He was in his 30s and looked strong and fit. He had a thick body hair. As for his forearms, which were exposed outside, it seemed like he was drowning in a brown sweater. He wore a circular hat and a depression in the middle as he revealed a smile and stretched out his right hand. The first mate of the Future, Frank Lee. Is this that Frank Lee guy that y'all keep talking about? The amount of stuff I hear about Frank Lee is actually crazy. You would have thought he was Klein himself. "Good evening, Mr. Sparrow." I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I've been waiting for Frank Lee to pop up. Poison expert Frank Lee, who is a bounty of 7,000 pounds. Klein instantly recognized the man. Considering how Garamond... Why are you guys talking about mushrooms, though? Considering how Garamond Sparrow didn't have the habit of shaking hands, he bent his back slightly and said, "Good evening." Frank Lee retracted his hand and glanced at Catleya. He said, while maintaining his smile, "You seem to know me. That's right. The picture I took before is on my arrest warrant. Don't mind the poison expert title. I'm a very friendly person, as long as I'm not facing those darn bastards. My greatest hobby is to study soil and figure out crossbreeding techniques. Believe me, this is the future of humanity. But the people from the Church of Earth Mother don't believe me." Catleya gave Klein an introduction in the most subtle manner. "He's originally someone from the Church of Earth Mother. Crossbreeding techniques are good, as long as their quality rises. It will only be able to provide more humans raising the poverty line." Klein looked at Frank Lee, and he calmly said curiously and truthfully, "This is something commendable. You are indeed an adventurer who doesn't share the viewpoint of the common man. Excellent, excellent. There are just too few people like you. Frankly's blue eyes revealed a clear look of pleasant surprise. I've only tried crossbreeding a bull, a cow, and wheat together, allowing calves to be born like wheat. For that, I was almost sent to court by the Church of Earth Mother. My benevolent mother, they don't understand your true will at all. Crossbreeding a bull, a cow, and wheat. You devil. Only then did Klein realize that his understanding of crossbreeding techniques was different from the Frank Lee he was talking about. He maintained a stoic expression without providing any further explanation. Under the lead of Frank Lee, who was reeling in a sudden bounty of exhaustion, Klein walked through the corridor beside Katlia. After stepping on the steps and arriving the higher level, Klein's spiritual perception stirred as he cast his gaze to the shadow beside him. Figure grew out in a distorted darkness, a thin and tall but pale figure. His cheeks were nearly transparent, and his nose bridge was disharmoniously and tall. His entire being gave off a sickly feeling. This is the second mate of future, Heath Doyle, frankly introduced with a smile. Bloodless Heath, whose bounty was higher than yours at 7,600 pounds. Klein quickly matched the face to the correct bounty notice. Heath nodded as he greeting before reading back into the shadows. He's a Rose Bishop. When turning around to head for the captain's cabin, frankly warmly mentioned Heath Doyle's situation. You're telling me that your second mate sequenced directly. Klein nearly pricked his brows and secretly glanced at Katlia and discovered her masked expression. Are you puzzled and worried that he's a devout believer of the true creator? A lunatic who has been tainted? No. He's a lucky fellow. Due to the incident, and the ordinary hymn was scattered with the poison concocted from the Rose Bishop's Beyonder ingredients. The potion seeped into him bit by bit, and he survived the ordeal. Finally, he became quite a special Beyonder. As he didn't experience the listening stage, he wasn't tainted, nor did he become a lunatic. As long as he doesn't proactively use the Beyonder powers, listen, he remains an ordinary person, frankly said in a flaunting tone. What an inevitable fellow. He reached sequence 6 in one go. Furthermore, he didn't turn mentally unstable like the sea serpent Calvatua. Klein sighed silently as he watched Admiral Stars open the door to the captain's cabin. Katlia pointed inside. Your room is diagonally across from here. Frank will send you over. If there's anything, you can come to me directly. You can have your meal in the dining hall, and at any time, you can also get Frank to send someone to bring you food to your room. What you choose is depending on your preference. Admiral Stars does things in a very clear and direct manner. Yes, she's mature and wise lady. Klein praised inwardly as he replied with a change in expression. Okay. He took his opportunity to glance at the layout of the captain's cabin, discovering that it contained a bookshelf, a full-body mirror, a table, and a carpet. She actually reads. Isn't this unable to digest all the information the hidden sage imbues in her? Klein thought in amusement. At this moment, having seen their conversations come to the end, frankly passionately promoted, Mr. Sparrow, would you like a serving of roasted potatoes tonight? When you chew it, it's like beef and it tastes like beef, but it's certainly potatoes. Will I get sick of eating that? Klein answered coldly. I don't eat supper. All right, then. Frankly dropped his shoulders and was just about to lead Klein to his room. Katlia suddenly thought of something and said, Mr. Sparrow, you've likely hunted quite a number of enemies and have reached several spoils of war. I'm curious about the number of Beyonder characteristics you have left. Perhaps they can be used to reduce the remaining price of this trip. Klein considered for a moment and answered frankly, most of them have been sold. That's Interrogator, Pugilist, and Lunatic left. He didn't mention the all-black eye or the Beyonder characteristic of Nightmare. He really is the most famous adventurer during the past few months. Even after selling most of the items, he still has 3 sets of Beyonder characteristics. Katlia sighed inwardly and she pondered. I want Pugilist. She had a warrior subordinate from the Gargus Archipelago who had long made enough contributions to apply for an advancement. Chapter 639, Name List. I love this volume so much. It's so good. It easily has the best characters. It easily has the best story. You can tell that Cuttlefish's writing got so much better in this volume. It has the best pacing in comparison to the first 2 books. Oh my god. It's easily the best. That's just my reading voice. Sometimes I read it a little differently for different characters. Sue me. I'm adding ambiance. I'm adding entertainment. Enterjoyment, if I will. Chapter 639, Name List. There is no reason for Clyde to decline Catlia's request. He thought of 2 seconds and said 700 pounds. Very fair, Catlia didn't haggle. Sequence 8 Beyonder characteristics typically cost 600 to 700 pounds, but there was often a premium for someone who was in desperate need for it. After all, such items seldom appeared in Beyonder gatherings. Clyde didn't immediately complete the transaction. He raised his suitcase and said without a change in expression, I'll give it to you tomorrow. He didn't bring the pugilist Beyonder characteristic with him, as most of the items of value had been thrown above the great fog. Catlia wasn't surprised by Gammon Sparrow's response. She nodded. That wouldn't be an issue. She had encountered many similar cases. It usually meant that the pugilist Beyonder characteristic was stored in items which wasn't meant to be known by others. Therefore, it's impossible for Gammon Sparrow to open his suitcase in front of her to complete the transaction on the spot. A crazy adventurer definitely has his secrets. Catlia paused for a second before adding, there won't be any surveillance placed in your room. Whatever she could see had already been seen by her. That's fine. Klein curled the corners of his lips and coldly smiled. His previous consideration was to place down items like Azek's copper whistle and Willow Septon's paper crane before holding a ritual going above the great fog. It was to resist any spying in the sense of mysticism. Then he could use the washroom as a way to avoid physical surveillance. Of course, he wasn't too worried that Admiral Stars would go overboard. He didn't believe that she was afraid of the crazy adventurer Gammon Sparrow, but that Catlia had no reason to do so. She definitely had milder and more concealed means of observing. For example, getting the help of a Beyonder from the spectator pathway. Klein took his hat, bowed, and followed poison expert Frank Lee to the room, turned to his room. Seeing him walk off the adequate speed, Catlia turned into a captain's cabin, picked up a heavy pair of glasses, and wore it. Backland at the Harvest Church south of the bridge. In the eyes of ordinary person, Bitchy Petrovsky, yeah! Fuck yeah! I love it when we get Bitchy Petrovsky. Such a good guy. Whose height was that of a half-giant, put down the Bible in his hands. He prayed once again in the hall and smiled. The number of believers is increasing. Is that so? Emlyn White, who was in the brown priest robe, was wiping the candle racks as he said without even looking up. He knew that the number of believers in Earth Mother had indeed increased significantly. It would have been a miracle in the past to have a handful of people be in attendance for praying on weekends or in the daytime. Now, there was often close to 10. Father Chowsky looked down at the busy vampire priest and chuckled. I'm pretty sure they said he was like, Don't tell me. I can do it. Bishop Utrovsky was like 2.3. He was like 2.3 meters? 2.7 meters? I think it was something like that. Father Chowsky looked down at the busy vampire priest and chuckled. Anyone can tell if they aren't blind. You have contributed greatly to this, and if not for your concocting of the medicines and treating the plague, and your willingness and sincerity to teaching the people about medicine, our faith would have been easily accepted by the residents of this borough. I'm 1.64 meters. Whatever. Emlyn held a claw, straightened his back, and tipped his chin lightly. I was only acting. What do you mean by our faith? Don't lump me in with you. Emlyn's expression twisted before he said with a smile, Speaking of the blind, it reminds me of a joke. It's said that the demand for blind people in Backland far exceeds its supply. This is because they were widely believed to be the most suitable for a juror. Father Chowsky ignored the joke and benevolently said, Regardless of the goal, you have contributed greatly to the spread of the faith of Earth Mother. Besides, this also proves that you have a kind heart. I said so back then, but why didn't you believe me? Emlyn looked up at the priest's massive body before attracting his gaze in silence. After busying himself at the cathedral, he changed into his normal clothes and wore a silk top hat that sheltered him from the sun. He then walked onto Rose Street. He stealthily sized up the surroundings and didn't notice any signs of monitoring. The red glove named Leonard from before really hasn't appeared again. I thought my act of exposing his secrets and buying Tinder would result in me being constantly investigated in secret. Emlyn White shook his head indiscernibly and felt puzzled. In the earlier stages, he had planned on taking in the hangman's theory and incur the investigation of the Red Gloves so as to disturb the monitoring from the upper echelons of the Sanguine. He could then achieve the perfect equilibrium by losing the Church of Earth Mother's blessed Utrovsky. But things didn't develop as he expected. Leonard Mitchell had apparently left Backland very quickly. At the end of February, Emlyn had made a detour to 7 Pincer Street. While he was outside once, only to discover that it was uninhabited. Without thinking about this matter any further, he walked to the end of the street, got into a rental carriage, and headed back to Orda Villa. He was left to study on the first floor by an attendant when he saw many Sanguine who had recently come to age. Among them was a Sanguine who had already become a baron. I'm not the only one, he thought before closing the door. He then said to the owner, Cosme Adora, "My lord, was I not called here because of a summoning from the Lord Nibs?" He had said "my lord" rather indifferently, as though he was calling him by name. This was because he is also a Sanguine baron. The difference was that he hadn't publicized it. Cosme was a very refined, middle-aged gentleman. He smiled and said, "All of you are outstanding young Sanguine. My grandfathers entrusted all of you with some tests." Other Sanguine baron? Roose Bathory, who was luckily a receiver in inheritance, asked, "What tests are there?" Cosme drank a mouthful of dark red blood, which was concocted with grape wine, and he scanned the area. "Perhaps you might not know, but the snake of fate of the life school of thought has disappeared for quite some time." As Emlyn White and the other Sanguine looked puzzled, Cosme continued, "But I believe all of you should know that the life school of thought is a coalition, which was barely formed thanks to their belief in fate. They allied under massive pressure placed in the 7 Orthodox churches in the beginning of the 5th epoch, and are formed by beyonders who think of themselves as absolutely rational and aloof. Those who worship the primordial moon, and those who seek the essence of life of spirituality. Due to the existence of the Snake of Fate, there hadn't been many serious problems internally. Their worship of the primordial moon was ultimately restricted to a fixed symbolic meaning. Furthermore, the process of formula exchange was melded with the master-apprentice heritage system. Unfortunately, with the disappearance of Snake of Fate, this process has been disrupted. The primordial moon's believers rapidly turned passionate, producing a fracture in the faction and represents fate. An intense conflict ensued as a result. This matter was used by the Rose School of Thought. It dealt quite in sizable amount of damage to them. Emlyn White, Roose Bathory, and the other Sanguine remained perplexed. After sharing the background information, Cosme dived into the details. Worshippers of the primordial moon are our eternal enemies. They had always been hunting us, concocting us into potions to achieve strength. Now we will not let go of such an opportunity. Here's a list of primordial moon worshippers and their situation. Whoever finds them and kills them will be the victor of this test. My grandfather, as well as various important figures, would reward you generously. If you complete the portion of the list, we will determine this by numbers. Of course, these people were selected, and all of you are capable of dealing with them. The rest will be tracked down by the important figures. Upon hearing the first few sentences, Emlyn had no intention of participating. Despite having a hatred for those artificial vampires, he found the matter troublesome, laborious, and tiresome. He'd rather stay at home in silence and chat with his dolls. You know what? I love a king that he prioritizes his hobbies. He's got his dolls, he's happy. I'm still convinced that the dolls are actually people, that he's turned into dolls, but we'll get there. By the time he realizes that it's a competition, as well as the sensing of the gaze of Roose Bathory and the other Sanguine, which were cast on him, Emlyn suddenly straightened his back, tipped his chin. No problem. The red eyes slowly swept across the other creatures in the room. On the future, inside the spacious room of the attached bathroom, Clyde stood in front of the window, looking out into the undulating blue ocean. In a good mood, he breathed in the cold winds and came from the north. The flagship of the Admiral Stars had already separated from the other ships of the fleet as he began to cruise alone. I don't think they're based on that accusation. Honestly, here's the thing. It's not that I think Emlyn's a murderer, but I do think that Emlyn has a 1 or 2 screws loose with this like doll obsession. Not knocking it. Love it to bits. It's a great character trait. I just think it would add so much more to his character if you kind of like go in and you're like, hey, Emlyn, these dolls, they're actually people. So we got to discuss this. Doesn't mean that I love you any less. It just means we might need to have a conversation, you know? They quickly adjusted their position among the starboard over their cannons, ready to shoot at any moment. At the same time, spears and harpoons, which were shot... After an unknown period of time, 2 whaling ships appeared ahead. Once they noticed the flag containing the stars of the eye. The fool that doesn't belong to this era. The one who wields good luck. The king of yellow and black. I'm missing something. I always miss something in it. No. I always miss the fucking second line. I know. I always miss the second line in it. It's the fool that doesn't belong to this era. Stop. No, I fucking know it. The fool that doesn't belong to this era. Something. The one... Oh, I didn't like that. The fool that doesn't belong to this era. The... Oh, no. I thought I was gonna get it this time. This is so sad. No, actually. I'm gonna have it by the next test. I'm gonna have it. I'm gonna have it down, memorized. I promise. I promise. Fuck. Yeah, I'm gonna do a clip compilation soon because there's a lot. Fuck. I'm gonna remember it. Yeah, I don't know it. Sorry. Anyway, let's get back to the book. The eye flying into the future, they immediately responded nervously. They quickly adjusted their positions, aiming the starboards over their cannons, ready to shoot at any moment. At the same time, spears and harpoons, which were shot using explosives, were directed in the same direction. The blonde and large fishermen from the Gargus archipelago held tridents and guns as they braced for their attack, either by standing or crouching. Klein also noticed that there was a number of women with figures similar to the Hulk. It was obvious at the glance I'm so sorry. That's my bad. Klein also noticed that there was a number of women with figures similar to the Hulk. It was obvious at the glance that they were heavy and good at fighting. The future didn't mind their welcome. It continued cruising past them, heading deeper into the whaling route. After cruising for a while, Klein saw more pirate ships ahead. They were clustered around a sea route periphery, their movements unknown. The future came close without standing on ceremony. Immediately, the pirate ships retracted and started birds as they quickly retreated. Sensing the future slowing down, Klein left his room in puzzlement. Just as he approached the captain's cabin, he discovered Katlia walking out. This woman wore a thick pair of glasses on her nose bridge, hiding her mysterious purple eyes. She glanced at Klein and said I always want to say succulently, and it's not succulently. Succinctly, someone discovered a ruin which is said to be from the 4th epoch at the bottom of the sea in the waters around here. We plan on taking a look while we're on our way. Bottom of the sea? Ruin from the 4th epoch? Klein instantly recalled the rumors he had heard from the ladder bar. So this piece of news had already been spread. I was wondering why I got to learn about it so easily, he said inwardly in enlightenment. I know. Hey, you know what? Sometimes, here's the thing. You know what I've learned? Life becomes a lot easier. Fucking when you learn how to speak. Life becomes a lot easier when you just admit that you're just, you're just a freak. And that's okay. When you just accept that we're all just freaked out, nothing really matters. We're all gonna die anyway, so might as well freak out while you're here. Chapter 640. And you know what? I wear it like a badge of honor. Sometimes. Not all the time. That time that the girl said goon or be goon to me as I was grabbing my coffee in the line, maybe not that time. However, when I'm in the safety of my own room, and there's a camera and a screen, guess what? I'm freaked out. That's okay. It's when it comes to the real world, and my actions do inevitably have consequences, is when I'm like, I didn't say that. That's not me. Klein had a certain degree of curiosity towards the outcome of the exploration. I said it before and I said it again. Is my lawyer here? David, are you here? Ah, there he is. The only person that can shut me up is me. And that's just the truth of the matter. And that's okay. So. Pause before we move on. Did you quit as my lawyer? Because I still need a lawyer. Are you not? Thank you. Thank you. Okay. As long as you didn't quit. That's all I care about. I'll take it. Yeah, no, literally. If I ever need to shut up, just use the clip of me telling myself to shut up. I'll stop talking. That's all it is. Unfortunately. Fair. That's fair. Chapter 640, Female Pirate. Klein had a certain degree of curiosity towards the outcome of the exploration. He didn't ask further as he walked past the captain's cabin and walked down the stairwell. After a few seconds, he felt his throat itch. He couldn't help but raise his fist to his mouth and cough. Klein wasn't surprised by such development, as it was inevitable. He'd carried the biological poison bottle for more than 2 hours last night, only when it was late at night, and he confirmation that Admiral Stars and the crew didn't have any intention of attacking him, did he move the mystical item back into the black suitcase. Sadly, he ended up feeling sick. Of course, the amount of time he brought the biological poison bottle with him wasn't considered long. His body wasn't in a weakened state, so his resulting illness wasn't anything serious. He just felt his tonsils swell in pain. Yeah, he did. Katlia, who was walking slowly behind, saw this scene, but she didn't find it a problem. Instead, she found it normal. It was a common knowledge for knowledgeable beyonders that a mystical items were bound to have negative side effects. Furthermore, where was I? Furthermore, they would learn from the 7 Orthodox churches and categorize those who with serious side effects which made them impossible to possess or use for a prolonged time as sealed artifacts. The reason why Katlia had sold or exchanged many of her lower to mid-sequence items was firstly because she wanted to better strengthen her survivability. You can still escape. It's being pulled into hell. So get out before you get pulled in. Well, I'll be looking up at you guys, wishing you the best. What's wrong with December 13th? The reason why Catley had sold or exchanged, survivability. Secondly, the various negative effects from multiple items were troubling. Often, one could avoid one, but not the other. Some negative effects might even sick or synergize with someone worse. Therefore, to most beyonders, the disadvantage surpassed the advantages. She discovered that Garamond Sparrow had used mystical items before weapons and spirituality charms to arm himself in his teeth. While being amazed, she was already guessing at the type of negative effects he was facing. From what she saw today, it was temporarily simple illness. With steady steps, Klein arrived at the deck and saw Frank Lee. He was still dressed in his white shirt and dungarees. His arm was stained with dirt as though he wasn't afraid of cold winds and blew down at him. Good morning, Garamond. Frank warmly waved his hand and said, Here, try my latest product. This is definitely the most welcome item at sea. As he said, he raised his other hand in a wide, flat fish of unknown breed. No, I don't want to know what it was. You could have cooked up this time. Klein paused in a footsteps as he looked at him with a cold expression. Frankly, didn't discover any problems with his attitude. He pulled out the dagger from his waist and stabbed the fish before slicing a hole open. Is he gonna fuck it? Like, what the hell? Blood flowed out and accurately landed on the large beer cup on the deck. It didn't emanate any fishy smell. Smell that? It's such an intoxicating alcoholic fragrance. Frankly half closed his eyes as he fervently said, This is fish who has red wine replacing its blood. It's such a wine contains lots of nutrients. Klein realized he was at a loss for words. Frankly looked at the surrounding sailors in excitement before... all fucking scientists are freaks. Absolutely. You don't think Einstein wasn't getting down and fucking dirty? Absolutely. That's how we actually discovered the theory of relativity. That was Stephen Hawking. Einstein discovered... Oh. No. What did he discover? It was E equals MC squared. But what's it called? Anyway. Einstein married his cousin, and Stephen Hawking was a kid diddler. Oh my god. I'm disgusted. You know what? That's why my favorite scientist is Isaac Newton. He invented gravity. Rapidly reproduce and become a C primer produce. Then he won't be lacking any alcohol no matter where we are. By the way, they can categorize by species. Some will produce Lanty-proof, others Nepos, red wine, and beer. The beer needs to come from sharks and whales. Otherwise, there won't be enough. Isn't the most troubling matter the lack of water? Or, of course, all of you can use beer to replace most water of the time because it doesn't easily spoil. Those poor fishes. Klein was pondering over the response to Frank. When Katlia came on deck, she walked past him and questioned her first mate. Is Nina done with her preparations? Yes, she has already finished the bottle of Nepos. Frank pointed to the shadow formed by the sails. The so-called preparations are to drink a bottle of Nepos, a specialty in Faceac, the Nepos which can light a fire. Klein suddenly felt that Nina, the lady mentioned by the first mate, was likely someone with Faceac blood. Captain, I want a bottle of Sonia beer, blood wine, more. In the dark, the female figure slowly stood up and walked over. She was more than 1.8 meters tall. Dude, she's a fucking tall bitch. Her blonde hair was casually tied up in a high pigtail. Her facial features were anything out. And here goes Klein. And the wonderful way he describes every single woman. Here's the thing. I noticed something. The only women that Klein doesn't describe just awful are Trissy, Cynthia, and I don't know, just all the women that are kind of freaked out and a little bit unhinged and mutate into something not. Trissy also is a man that transitioned to a woman, which, you know, he went with it, so is a woman, but I don't know. We're getting more, every chapter, dare I say it, every chapter we get closer to Leo Klein. I'll say it. Captain, I want a bottle of Sonia blood wine, more. In the dark, and female figure slowly stood up and walked over. She was more than... Audrey's a child. Audrey's a child. She's freshly 18. That'd be like saying Derek's a freak. Derek and Audrey are children. Her facial features weren't anything outstanding, but she had this... traits of someone from Faceac. Her skin was fair, but her eyes were dull. The lady named Nina wore a black tight suit made of fish skin. The top and bottom seemed to be a one-piece, fully accentuating her stunning figure. Okay. Yeah, dude. Audrey's also a baby. She's so young. No, and I'm not saying, hear me out. I'm not saying that it's anything. All I'm saying is you don't just call your boys my dear poet, not kind of as a joke and to yourself, you know? Just throwing it out there. Also, yeah, I caught the One Piece reference. I don't know if you meant to throw it in there, but it was in there. Derek's 16 and Audrey's 18. If there's a teen in their age, that's a child. He's 14? I thought he was 16. He went through that much at 14 years old? Oh my god. No wonder. Dude, that makes me love Derek even more, because he's still just a ball of sunshine. And he's already been through so much. That's because... No, I'm not gonna... I'm not. I'm just gonna leave it. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut, and we're just gonna move on. Klein felt a little embarrassed and wished to move his gaze. However, the second thought, Garamond Sparrow was definitely not such an untried person. All he could do was empty his gaze and look straight at Nina's face. Garamond, this is our boat swine, Nina. She also the navigator assistant. Her sequence name is... Yes, you're still a child. 19-year-old is a child. Yeah. Father, frankly, still didn't hold back in introductions. Apart from his research, you gotta think, I'm 25 years old. So, you're my, yeah. Yeah. Literally, anybody who's like 23, I'm like, oh, 23 and under. I'm like, and you know what? You can fucking call me aunt for that one. Anybody 23 and under, I'm like, oh my god, you're just a little baby. It's a child. No, Merlin, pretty much, yeah. Her nickname is Seabed. After seeing so many bounty notices, there are some I immediately recall. Klein looked at Nina's eyes and nodded calmly. Good morning, ma'am. Nina held back her smile and sized up Klein. Good morning, Miss Sparrow. Not Miss Sparrow. I'm Miss Sparrow. Mr. Sparrow. I'm very curious if Vice Admiral Edelman is really as charming as the rumors say. I'm as charming as the rumors say. As a female pirate who had mixed with low and mid-class people for extended periods of times, what's wrong with the way I act? I don't know. What's wrong with the way I act? She had originally planned on asking Airman Sparrow if she was lacking in charm, or asking if he was the type of cold which resulted in her being completely ignored, or him showing any restrictions. All the clip. You know what? Fair. This is fair. But that's the, you know, I think it's just like to entertain the people. It's a good balance, you know? Thank you, Stan. Always got my back. Always got my back. Could draw hits and guns and shoot at any moment. She rationally held back her gesturing words. She switched to asking about Vice Admiral Ailment. How am I to answer you? Klein gloomily said. Her bounty is extremely charming. Nina was taken aback, somewhat at a loss for a response to continue the conversation. Hence, she turned to look at Admiral of Stars. David, you're my lawyer. You can't be saying shit like that. You're supposed to be on my side, dude. Captain, do we begin now? Katlia, who felt her bounty flash through her mind for some baffling reason, nodded. Begin. Just as she sat there, Nina took a large strides and sat to the side of the ship. With her right hand supporting herself, she leaped into the sea, swimming downward like a gigantic black fish. At the same time, there were a few splashes. A few sailors had jumped down as well to provide her aid. This, she begins at the mention of it, she didn't need any additional time to prepare. This lady has a temperament of the Church of Storms, as expected of a Beyonder. From the sailor... But here's the thing. Would you guys want me any other way? No. Nobody would. And that's just the fact of it, you know? Oh yeah, also a note, happy early birthday. I wish you happy birthday on your actual birthday week. Frank thought for a moment. He didn't say any word as he rushed back to the cabin, his destination unknown. By the side, Katlia nudged her heavy glasses and smiled. Frank is a poison expert, but he's also an outstanding doctor. As expected of someone from the planter pathway, Klein didn't ask further as he stood there, awaiting Nina's preliminary exploration. Seeing the sudden silence, it became somewhat awkward. Katlia took a few steps forward and said, seemingly in passing, in another day we will be leaving for Whaling Sea Route, but we're at least a week from those waters. Klein thought before asking. That is, if we follow the Whaling Sea route. In fact, this will lead us further north and more roundabout. I know of a secret route that we can allow us to reach the waters. You wish to go in 2 or 3 days? Katlia's gaze looked at Klein's eyes through her thick glasses, as though she wanted to tell how he knew of the extremely dangerous waters. Klein considered simply said, very good, that's exactly what I want. In addition, those waters are more illusory than real. Katlia retracted her gaze and thought as she looked at the entrance to the cabin. Frankly ran over, held a green apple in his hand. This is the outcome of another one of my projects. It's the crossbreeding of medicine and fruits. It makes the consumption of medicine more enjoyable. He beamed as he handed Klein the apple. I'm afraid I'll end up even sicker after eating it. Klein glanced at Admiral Stars and saw her gently nod. Only then did he inwardly force himself to accept the apple while appearing calm on the outside. He then bit down at the apple. It had the taste of a normal apple. It just had a lot more juice and the insides were softer. After a few bites, Klein discovered that the throat suddenly wasn't hurting. He didn't realize what had stopped coding. Oh, he didn't realize he stopped coughing. I have to say that it's rather magical, as long as it doesn't involve animals and humans. Frankly, really is a genius that should be taken seriously in the Church of Earth Mother. Unfortunately, he ultimately became a devil-like person. Klein looked at the poison expert and said, frankly, it's healed. Very good! Frank didn't praise him as he began casually introducing the pirates on deck. After a while, Nina and the other supporting sailors swam up to the surface and returned to the ship. She held a metallic piece that had been rotten to its unidentifiable state, and pieced the black hardened mud that was filled with the honeycomb holes. She grumbled to Catlia, Captain, there's no deep sea well, and Well's mouth isn't even bigger than my breast. Of course, it's even deep and dark. It's unknown what's hidden in it. She gestured using her hands. Exaggeration is a common trait of pirates and adventurers. Catlia nodded without using the term bragging. The diameter of the well's mouth is that small. Klein puzzled looked at the item in Nina's hand and politely diverted his gaze from her body, which had streams of water flowing down. Catlia's gaze moved in sync with his as she said, go into details. Oh wait, wrong. Oops. There we go. What is happening? My birthday's in October. I just realized every word is capitalized, but well. David, what the fuck, bro? What the fuck? Somebody asked when my birthday was, and I said October. You're such a shitty fucking lawyer. You're lucky that I need you. Chapter 641, The Well Mouth That Humans Can't Pass. Nina was a pirate who had raised up the ranks. Often she might be easily irritated, but she was very experienced at handling matters. She was a rather reliable person. After some thought, she gave the description in a serious manner. Oh my god. After some thought, she gave the description in a serious manner. That well's mouth is rather deep. Oh, okay. The well's mouth is a rather deep depth along the seabed. I need enough time to adjust myself before I can acclimatize to the temperature and pressure of the area. That's why it took so much time to get there. It isn't easily discovered, but the remnant steel buildings are rather obvious. I found them once I got acclimatized. They've already completed, collapsed, or rotten. There's no way to imagine they originally looked like. However, I could tell they definitely definitely span across a great distance in the past. It's shrunken by a great deal now. When Nina said this, she chuckled and scanned the men around her. A real female pirate is indeed different, Klein sighed from the bottom of his heart. From his point of view, be it Admiral Stars Catley, Vice Admiral Iceberg Edwina, or Vice Admiral Ailment Tracy, none of them could be considered a pure female pirate. All of them hailed from major factions or secret organizations. When they were low sequence beyonders, they were either not at sea or they were following important figures. So, what they did were relatively safe matters. Otherwise, they were independent adventurers. Had never been tainted in the character atmosphere of low or mid-level pirates. After Nina finished laughing, Catley pointed her fingers to the rusted items and could hardly describe as metal beams. This is a portion of the steel building. Yes, Captain. As you know, I don't know much about history or mysticism. I can only bring some back for your inspections. You're an expert on this. Nina smiled as she handed the metal beam over. Then she pointed the black piece of hardened mud that was filled with the holes on the surface. Not far from the iron ruins, I found a well. It's not very big. If it's to be described with the word huge, then I've definitely seen plenty of huge cannons. I bet you have. Those drunken adventurers are better at bragging than us pirates. That's the mud from the inner layer of the well. I can't imagine how such patterns could be formed. Nina's fingers repeatedly struck the honeycomb dots on the black mud. Klein originally believed that there were marks left behind by dense shots with very tiny projectiles, but after the careful inspection, he suspected that they weren't remnant patterns after something had rotten. Each spot was very shallow at the edges spread outwards of irregular patterns. Nina handed a black mud to Catlia as she continued describing. The well's mouth is really small. Even a child from Nass wouldn't be able to enter. It's very deep. I even felt if it was bottomless in the environment. The interior is completely dark, as though something was slowly summoning me in. Yes, slowly. Found a few rocks nearby and threw them in, but there wasn't any response. In short, it's filled with water. Catlia held up the metallic beam, the black mud through the thick glasses. She observed them seriously. Since the mouth is very small and humans can't enter them, there's no need for us to begin the exploration immediately. It will be very dangerous. Let's wait until we figure out the secret hidden within these items and whether the ancient well is worth us taking the risk before we return to make an attempt. Aye, Captain. The wet Nina was trembling as the result of the cold winds. The way she wavered made all the shining pirates stare at her. Catlia nudged her glasses and said to Nina, "You can drink a bottle of Sonia blood wine. There's no limit for the rest." Long live the captain, Nina cried out in joy. An underwater well that humans can't enter. Klein, who had no desire to explore it, summarized Nina's description. Suddenly he had a strange idea. Humans are unable to enter the well, but that doesn't mean that non-humans can't do it. Many deep-sea fish aren't necessarily that huge. There's a significant chance that they can pass through the well. As a sea god, he has the means to make marine creatures do his bidding while wielding the scepter. There's no rush. Let's see if Ma'am Herman is able to figure out anything from these two objects. I'll consider whether I'll explore it on the return trip, otherwise I might attract some exaggerated danger. There's still not enough information regarding this. There's no way to do any divination. As his thoughts wandered, Klein's expression remained deadpan. At that moment, Catlia shot him a glance out of curiosity, then she retracted her gaze without leaving any traces. Why didn't she suddenly look at me? She was seeing what I was doing. It's impossible for her to know that I possess the sea god scepter and can make the marine creatures do my bidding. That's not right. She knows, but she only knows that Mr. Fool wields Calvatua's godhood scepter, not the world, unless she has figured out that the world is the fool. But that's even more impossible. Even the hangman is still stuck on the concept of the world as his blessed. She hasn't even realized this point. Viewing this from a different point of view, I'll consider it from Admiral Star's angle. She's someone being pursued by knowledge, and she's follower of the Queen Mystic. She's onto a loyal Mosaic agate, and has roamed the seas for years. She has plenty of knowledge and expertise, so she would be at odds to know that the sea god domain possesses the beyond powers to control marine creatures. Therefore, after realizing the humans are unable to pass through the ancient wells, she naturally made the connection. With the scepter in Mr. Fool's hand, does she plan on requesting for help in the future? She looks at me to figure out if the world has also grasped the corresponding information and have similar ideas. Many ideas went through Klein's mind with the powers of the clown. He forcibly maintained his indifference expression. He didn't react abnormally in any way. As Nina was about to draw the Sonia blood wine, Klein pressed down on his hat and returned to the cabin. Just as he was about to approach the door, a figure surfaced in his mind. Suddenly, in a room in the cabin's upper level, the windows were slightly shut and the curtains were drawn. There were a pair of blurry eyes hidden behind them, silently watching the crowd on the deck, as well as Garum Sparrow. Who was this? Klein didn't stop. His body didn't show any hesitation as he entered the cabin normally, as though nothing had happened. At 3 p.m, the bright but not scorching sunlight shone in through the gardens adjacent to the Stowen University. Michel Duth was already a senior associate professor by 40. He was wearing a long tailcoat and beautiful bow ties. He waited by the door. Yesterday evening he received a letter. The slender was from the attendant of the richest aristocratic family in Eastchester County, the Hall family. The person who wrote the letter is his daughter of the Member of Parliament from the House of Lords who wielded immense influence. She was Miss Audrey Hall, who deemed to be the most stunning gem in Backland. This noble lady had mentioned that the letter that she had learned from the gathering that Mr. Michel Duth was an outstanding collector of aficionado of this domain. She had a great desire in paying a visit. Michel Duke didn't have any reason to refuse. Soon a classical carriage with a family emblem arrived on the door. 2 servants who had been instructed to open the outer gates made the iron railings lead the carriage around the garden and arrive in front of the house. The housekeeper was the first to alight, followed by guards and maidservants. Following that, the hand wearing the long white gauntlet glove was extended outwards. With the help of the maidservants, Audrey elegantly stepped onto the carpet which Michel had paved. Michel was the first taken aback before her eyes lit up. He felt as though the flowers in the garden had instantly faded. He took 2 steps forward and took off his hat to bow. "Welcome, my honorable lady. Your visit is honorable for me and my family." Shoot. That's because me and Wiz, big brain. Your visit and honorable family. Audrey took off the veiled hat. Veiled hat and passed it her maidservant before exchanging a few pleasantries. Then she followed Michel Duth into the living room and entered the collection room of the first floor. Here, Michel finally found the coincidence as the master of the house. He began pointing at the collection and providing an introduction from the left. This is a helmet that appeared in the White Rose War. After lots of research, he can be determined that the owner is a member of the Sauron family. Back then, they were still considered royalty. The golden helmet had an intricate design. There were avid and flying wings that adored it, and the visitor was formed in pieces of gold scales. My ancestor obtained this first aristocratic title in the war. Audrey replied with piqued interest. She had already adjusted her mental state ahead of time as she appeared. Bullseye is an Omega. Like, that's just kind of a fact, though. Like, he gives Omega vibes, you know? Like, submissive Omega vibes. Kind of like how I said Wiz also kind of gives him vibes, you know? The White Rose happened after 20-year war, before the Battle of the Violated Oath. There, Lowen definitely Intis became strong again. Michelle continued introducing her collection as Audrey solemnly listened, raising questions from time to time as she conversed with him. Finally, Michelle's finger pointed towards the notebook with a black cover. Oh, poor David. This belonged to a knight stationed on Sonia Island in the 20-Year War. The knight's name has already vanished in the long rivers of history. This notebook is the only proof of his existence. He once stood fast until the very last moment on Sonia Island. This notebook is not only a first-hand account for the research of the portion of history, but it also hides certain problems. The knight's grammar has many uncommon habits. This might be a clue to aid in determining his exact identity. Audrey instinctively believed that the notebook was her target, hence she only learned a little. Indeed, the black covered the unobvious patterns. Together they outline an abstract image of a dragon. From Michelle's tone and minute expression, his interest is focused on the content and not the item itself. He doesn't particularly treasure it. I have a high chance of purchasing it. Audrey calmly made a judgment as she turned her head. She then smiled at Michelle Duth and said, "What are the uncommon habits exactly?" "Enjoy using short sentences, very simple short ones," Audrey described in a flashing tone. Audrey was always a good listener. She looked at him with a smile and she listened with focused attention. This made Michelle speak more. As she listened, she suddenly felt that the knight's grammatical habits were somewhat familiar. That is, Audrey's eyes darted around slightly as she quickly remembered the source of the familiarity. This was the grammatical habit of Dragonese, which she had diligently mastered. Sorry. A Knight Who Knows Dragonese. Oh, wait. Chapter 642. We're going through these chapters really fast. I don't know if I just learned how to read or if the chapters just got smaller. But I feel like we're going through the chapters a lot faster now. Chapter 642, Killing 3 Birds with 1 Stone. A Knight Who Knows Dragonese is even used in a critical stage of his growth. It's no wonder that the psychology alchemist wished to obtain the notebook he left behind. I made one Epstein joke one time during one stream. And it was for like 2 seconds. Get off my dick, Cammy, okay? A Knight a Knight Who Knows Dragonese and even use Dragonese could even use it in a critical stage of growth. It's no wonder that the psychology alchemist wished to obtain the notebook he left behind. Audrey was enlightened as she stopped her wandering thoughts. She happily and seriously discussed the problem that stemmed from such grammatical habits with Michelle Duth. Soon they concluded the discussion over the notebooks as Michelle began introducing the other items. Time passed as the tour slowly came to an end. Audrey planned on raising her request of the purchase the notebook in the next meeting in order to make her goal less obvious. The time passed, slowly came to an end. Audrey planned on raising a request to purchase. Obvious. However, in a friendly atmosphere and with the naturalness of the conversation, she sharply sensed that it was an opportunity. Hence, with the power of the lie, she made her cheeks blush red. Oh my god, get off my fucking dick. Louvre, those eclipse. I don't think anybody needs to see those, to be totally honest with you. Her eyes. Her eyes, as the opportunity, hence the power of lies, she made her cheeks blush red. Mr. Duth, the helmet from the Sauron royal family originates from the white rose, to keepsake of my ancestors. Pardon my presumptions, but can I buy it from you? Also, the notebook of the 20-year war. I'm very impressed by the knight that stood firm on Sonia Island, and also wish to have it. I know it's not a polite request, but I wish that you can understand how I feel. Of course, you have the right to decline. Her eyes moved as she obviously darted them around, partially deliberately and truthfully, to express her lack of confidence and embarrassment. Michelle subconsciously moved her gaze away and said with a hoarse and slow voice, I'm a collector. I won't sell my collection. His tone and the words he used aren't firm enough. In the intel I provided gathered, he's a gentleman who values his reputation greatly. Using cash to purchase his collection is probably unacceptable. The reason why the psychology alchemist didn't get someone else to complete the mission is firstly because I have a way with earning contribution points, and secondly, I'll probably took the association professor attitude towards such matters in my mind. I have a chance to approach. Before the visit, Audrey had already carefully decided the different tests according to the intel she received. After some thought, she changed topics. Mr. Duth, I heard that you are requesting Stone University to build an ancient relic research center. Yes, that has been my goal for the past few years. Michael looked at Audrey and answered frankly. Audrey smiled faintly and said, I'm very interested in the research in the area. I also feel deep respect for you and hope to see your wish fulfilled. Well, I'm planning on donating £1,000, a nearby piece of land spanning 2,000 acres, and a manor with rather good returns for faculty. Faculty, you are from Stone University. I hope to have a non-profit basic relic search and provision foundation set up. I know that it's not a lot, but I will drum up support from the ladies and gentlemen, and I know in order to get them to make a certain amount of contributions. Mr. Duth, I think that you're the most professional relic collector and researcher I know. I'm wonderful if you're willing to be in person charge of this non-profit foundation. 2,000 acres of land near the university. That's worth about £6,000. Together, the manor and the cash, Miss Audrey would be donating nearly £10,000. With such a non-profit relic research and provision foundation, and difficulties would encounter such a research grant provided approved would be drastically lowered. Michael paused for a few seconds before revealing the sincere smile. He bowed solemnly and said, My honorable lady, the importance you place on academia has left me touched. Its glow is enough to match your beauty and upbringing. I believe I have no reason to reject your invitation. I've always recorded the content of the notebook. I will send it and the helmet that you reside tonight. Treat it as a gift from a sincere friend. Success! Audrey was delighted as she wished to praise herself. However, she appeared reserved and indifferent, as she didn't do anything that was improper. It's my honor, she said earnestly. What time is it? Looking at the time, looking at the chapters, let's say chapter 645. We'll stop at chapter 645. Yeah. I feel like that's pretty chill. Although the two items were definitely not worth £10,000, it would result in any loss on her part. Yeah, I'll say 645. In her plans to suggest that contained 3 important goals, which yielded 3 returns. The goals first was naturally obtain the items and complement the mission. She would then successfully obtain the hypnosis potion formula from the psychology alchemist. The second goal is to enhance her privileged standing and image via donating the academic research and the provision of ancient relics. That was something more noble a tycoon needed to do. Even if the donation wasn't told, Audrey would have to donate £3,000 or more of the various charitable organizations. Therefore, she believed that her father, Earl Hall, wouldn't stop from doing this with a few of her other properties. The third goal was to having a foundation that focused on search and preservation of ancient relics. It made it easier for her to come into contact with historical records and mysterious items. The value, Audrey didn't need to personally do anything. All she needed to do was sit at home and receive items that might be beneficial to her. It was equivalent to using £10,000 to produce an even more money establishing her own faction. Of course, if Michael Duth hadn't accepted the exchange, then she had other plans. The Kingdom's Higher Education Commission had someone from the Hall family, as well as the noble family she knew. As long as the association professional had anything he needed, he was certain that he would be means to satisfy him. However, Audrey didn't like such methods. She had a nagging feeling that it was shady and would harm the public interest. After discussing the matter, Audrey stayed for a little bit longer and chatted idly about 15 minutes. It made wrapping up the process not as sharp and abrupt. Following that, she left Michael's house and rode her carriage back to the Hall family villa in Stone City. Past 8 in the evening, she received the Sauron royalty helmet and notebook from the 20th Year War. Audrey wore a pair of white silk gloves that sat before her desk. With piqued interest, she placed the helmet to the side and she began flipping through the content of the notebook. She discovered that the record was sparse. The earlier records indicated how the knight who was stationed in the ancient Elven Islands had learned how to brew Sonia bloodwine, how he chased after women, how he spent the boring days of the later records. It entered the period of the 20th Century War. It mainly included the cursing of people of Faceac, the grumbling about the companions, and the consideration towards his plans to stay fast. It also included the end of how the Sonia Sea was first lost. Apart from the grammatical habits of similar to Dragonese, there aren't any serious problems, nor can I find anything in clues. Audrey found as she closed her notebook, she had used the methods derived from mysticism to do her checks, but there was no avail. This made her unwilling to waste time, and she planned to return it to the psychology alchemist. As her thoughts raced, she suddenly had a new idea. Mr. World, Mr. Hangman will often consider problems from learning angles and providing suggestions. Should I learn from them? Well, viewing it from a different point of view, if I can contend the notebook isn't problematic, would the physical item actually be worth the psychology alchemists are after? What's so special about it? I didn't discover anything. It belongs to a knight who accustomed it to using Dragonese, and knights must have experienced something. Divination. Yes, divination. Perhaps I can find the knight final vocation. Using divination with the help of the notebook, and this might be related to dragon. Since it's a dragon, there's a high chance that the mind dragon, a representative of the spectator pathway, clues involving it would indeed be something the psychology alchemist would pay close attention to. Audrey, that's some nice thinking. Audrey's eyes turned crystal clear. She seemed to hide the clear resplendence. She could help but turn her head and look at the golden retriever sitting by her side. Susie glanced at her owner and barked, "Audrey, do you want me to praise you?" "No, there's no need," Audrey turned her head back, feeling a little embarrassed. Then she discovered the important question. She wasn't able to divine things herself, or it could be said that the revelation that she received from divination would be highly inaccurate. There's no way to confirm it, I can seek Mr. Fool's help. A secret deed ritual. It can only be performed on my body and not towards an external object. Artificial sleepwalking. It's similar to secret deed rituals, so I wouldn't do well. Sacrifice it to Mr. Fool and get him to do the divination before bestowing it back to me. No, that won't work. It'll appear rather disrespectful. He isn't my father or teacher, but a real god. Using such a method is way too casual and somewhat sacrilegious. Audrey's thoughts slowly went from Mr. Fool to divination. Although she was rather incompatible with divination, she had a certain level of understanding and the corresponding knowledge. She soon locked onto the particular method of divination. It was to seek the help of the third-party strength and unknown and mysterious existence via this certain ritual. Most classic examples of such methods was magic, mirror, divination. I think we've already dabbled. Didn't we dabble in magic, mirror, divination? We were like, maybe not. Yes, it's indeed very dangerous, but the danger stems from the possibility that the target is filled with malice or one that can cause a person to break down immediately. But I don't have such worries. I just lost my train of thought. I can seek Mr. Fool's help. Audrey blinked and held down her agitation as she said with the golden retriever. Susie, guard the door outside. I will use mysticism method to study the notebook. Did you use them before? Susie asked, puzzled. She's getting harder to fool. Audrey's eyes darted around as she said confidently, plan on using magic, mirror, divination. Oh, hi. Sorry, I was not focusing on... That's my bad, I was not focusing. It's dark cello and violin ambient gothic strings. Yep. And you know what? It's doing wonders. I'm really vibing with it. I'm not ignoring. I was locked in on my book. Don't worry, make a plea for a safe existence. All right, Susie determined that Audrey was speaking the truth. She took a few steps before turning around and exhorted her. Audrey, you need to be careful about being possessed by a mysterious existence. I know. Thanks. It's my teacup. It's to keep my throat from closing in on itself, from talking. She took a few steps before turning around and exhorted her. Audrey, you need to be careful about being possessed by a mysterious existence. I know, Audrey replied without feeling worried at all. From her point of view, Mr. Fool really wanted to do something to her. He had countless opportunities to do it in the past. There was no reason for him to wait until this day. After Susie opened the closet and opened and closed the door by herself and went out, Audrey sat in front of her desk and recited the honorific name of the Fool to request the use of magic, mere divination. I think I know what you were trying to say. I just need you to know that it did not come across the way you wanted it to. And we can move on. After Susie opened the closed door by herself and went out, Audrey sat in front of her desk and recited the honorific name of the Fool to request the use of magic, mere divination. After a while, Klein was the one in the future, went to the bathroom and headed over the great fog. There, he heard Miss Justice's prayer. That can be done, that's all right. As a mysterious and unknown existence, I can be the third force in a magic, mere divination. Klein allowed it while feeling amused. Audrey, immediately picked up the notebook, sat in front of the dresser, and lit the candle while facing the mirror. There's a little author's note at the end of this. There's a little author's note. I feel like I'm reading Holy Scripture whenever I read the author's notes. Author's note. 1R is 100 square meters. Okay, this is what it is, because it wasn't acres, it was like R. Okay, 1R is 100 square meters in late Victorian era. Land as a suburb was approximately 100 to 130 pounds per acre. Converting the acres, it's about 2 pounds and 10 shillings to 3 pounds and 5 shillings per R. Well, that's excluding London. Of course, this might not be too accurate. I did inference from the overall cost of land purchased and building a house and subtracted the cost of building a house from the information from this area. Holy shit. Chapter 43. Klein's version of magic, mere divination. Oh my god, why can I not spell magic, mere divination? Did I spell Klein? I spelled Klein wrong. No. I'm disrespecting him so much. I'm disrespecting him so much. I'm dyslexic. It's not my fault. It's literally not my fault. I just get it's not my fault. I get confused with vowels and consonants. It's not my fault. I promise it's not my fault. I just slip up sometimes, you know? And that's just what it is. Some bitch. Okay. I was a double scuff up. Literally can't win. Literally cannot win. I feel like I can't. I drop this. I always just do better when I like fiddle with it. help. I was born this way. I was born and raised this way, and it's not my fault, bro. I do my best. With the curtains drawn tightly and all the lights extinguished in the room, Audrey followed the requirements of magic mirror divination and completed the corresponding preparations. Of course, she didn't specifically choose a specific time, as there wasn't any need to troublesome. You know what? I fucking am blaming my parents, because both my parents have it too. So that's probably where I got it. I fully fucking blame my parents. Isn't good enough. I know, okay? One day maybe I'll be good enough. Trust me, coach, one day I'll be good enough. Looking at the candles and reflecting light from her, as well as the reflection, Audrey picked up the bottle of extract in excitement and some unease. She then dripped a few droplets on the dim flame. As the mild and refreshing fragrances filled her nose, for some baffling reason, Audrey recalled the times when she was still a mysticism enthusiast. Yeah. In the beginning, she would also commit all kinds of mistakes. She would realize that she had forgotten to prepare the essential oils and extracts that would please the deity at critical moments during the ritual. All she could do was make do with perfume, and her attempts no doubt failed. In fact, according to the information which Mr. Fool shared, he would similarly respond even if he had used my perfume. Audrey exhaled slightly and, using cognition, calmed herself down. She knew that her uncontrollable thoughts weren't ordinary behavior coming from her. A tiny bit of anticipation and nervousness left them magnified by lie. After making sure she was in optimal state of mind, Audrey clasped her hands, pressed them to her mouth and nose as if in prayer. She sincerely chanted softly, "The fool that does not belong in this air, the mysterious ruler above the gray fog." Fuck. Yeah, I just always forget that part, and that's on me. The mysterious ruler above the gray fog, the king of yellow and black who wields good luck. Secret incantation gently echoed several times as Audrey felt the surrounding darkness had an inclusion of some which was somewhat indiscernible. It was like an undercurrent hidden beneath the water's surface. Looking up, Audrey reached out her right hand and pressed it through the still candle flame and stroked the mirror's surface from top to bottom. I know. Dude, I missed that line on the quiz and I missed it just now. At this point, the magic mirror divination was basically done. If the mysterious and unknown existence interested was piqued, it would respond to the mirror. Above the grey fog in an ancient, magnificent palace, Klein looked at the crimson star representing Miss Justice, expanded the contract as it rippled with a mysterious glow. Finally, it was tainted with the nearby black feeling of serenity. It condensed into a circular halo. The size of a mirror appeared, led to the outer world. It's different from the past rituals. Interesting. Klein leaned back in his chair and extended his spirituality to make contact with the black circular hole. Silently, his vision changed. The long bronze stable and the crimson star overlapped with the spacious room, which was illuminated with candlelight, becoming distant once again. At this moment, Klein felt the mirror had become an extension of his body or eye. It allowed him to clearly see that interfere with the real world, despite being above the grey fog. Yes, clearly. All the objects in Klein's vision no longer looked blurry as they appeared distinct in his eyes. His gaze suddenly froze on 2 seconds. In front of him was a golden lace white-dressed lady, long blonde hair, and casually tied up as they smooth and luxuriously flowed down. Her emerald eyes reflected a somewhat palish flame, looking at deep as the ocean and as pure as gemstone. Her facial features and the shape of her face were matched with the stunning beauty. Her bearing was elegant and clear and pure. Klein shifted his gaze away and felt guilty for some baffling reason. Oh, probably because of that fucking dream he had. I nearly imagined her to be a demoness of quite a high sequence. Thankfully, I recalled in time that Miss Justice is beyond the spectator pathway and a child. It's impossible for her to become a demoness. The smell of the extract isn't very bad. It's very unique. It had a very subtle feeling. The mystical item created from the faceless beyond her characteristic. Miss Justice made it into her necklace. Klein gaze landed on the mystical item, which was disguised as a diamond necklace. Then he heard Miss Justice say in the utmost anticipation, "Mirror, mirror She's like, mirror, mirror on the wall. Mirror, mirror, please tell me the location of the owner of this notebook. Audrey knew that she was asking Mr. Fool, but mirror, mirror were the words that she had always wanted to recite from. Same girl, same. No, I know it won't be out of the ordinary. I know. In the story she had heard from a young age, she finally had the chance to use it in practice. Oh, or did Roselle take Disney? Did he bring Disney to this world? In failures in the past don't count. Yes, Audrey nodded inwardly. Klein instantly looked at the back notebook placed between Miss Justice and the candle. He discovered that his spirituality could easily spread out with the help of the mirror. He could hold the divination medium as he thought was using his hand. Above the gray fog, he quickly wrote in corresponding divination statements the location of the original owner of the notebook. With one hand holding the notebook and another hand holding the piece of paper, Klein recited and leaned back. In the chair, with the help of cognition. What do you mean nobody ever says mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Like in the book? With the help of cognition, he finally fell into a deep slumber. Audrey looked at the mirror intently, with her emerald eyes awaiting Mr. Fool's reply. After a few seconds, she saw ripples being produced in the mirror's surface. It's a success. Magic mirror divination really works. Audrey's eyes widened as they reflected the scenes flashing in the mirror. It was a view of the village from above. The scene zoned in as the dragon drawing on the various buildings gradually turned clear. A cathedral quickly occupied the mirror in its entirety before being placed in the cemetery attached by it. Finally, interesting. I did not know that. Oh, give me a sec. Give me a second. She gonna have a bit of a leg. Is in the village when the custom dragon under night ruled in the notebook Lindenall. And from the village he returned to his hometown after the loss of the 20-year war and stayed there until his death, or he was sent back to his hometown as a corpse. The village is the Eastchester County Stone City and the part of the Eastchester County, so it's very always Harsh's fault. Very understandable the notebook which aristocratic professionals Professor Michael obtained stems from there. That's indeed a mind dragon living in the sea of collections subconscious over there, feeling intelligent. Audrey thanked Mr. Fool, ended the magic mirror divination. Under the candlelit illumination. Candlelit illumination, she stared at the notebook for a moment before... What the fuck am I reading right now? Dude, all the words? No, because that was crazy. I actually just thought it was Percy Jackson there for a second. All the words, like, conjoined into one, and I couldn't separate the words. I actually think I'm losing control. If I start tweaking out, Jesus. Under the candlelit illumination, she stared at the notebook for a moment before deciding to hand it over. She wanted to know what the psychology alchemist would divine or figure out. At the very least, the present me lacks the strength to come into combat with the mind dragon. That's all I can do. Besides, even if the psychology alchemists really discover anything and beliefs from it, once I slowly rise up the ranks in organization, some of that will belong to me. Audrey's mood very quickly turned positive once again. Above the grey fog, Klein wrapped the corners of the long bronze table with Miss Justice's description. He made his judgment. The notebook of the village had something to do with a dragon, and the dragon often implied treasure. What a pity Miss Justice's strength is lacking. Otherwise, I would have encouraged her to explore it and pray to the sea god if something happened, while providing support to her in various means. Yes, it's too dangerous for her. It can only be set aside for now. If the psychology alchemist didn't discover anything, perhaps we can attempt it in the future. Klein suppressed his regret as he recalled the experience of the magic mirror divination. This kind of divination is extremely advantageous for the third party. There's almost no price to be paid the connection to the real world. If I so wish, I could tour out the mirror and the sphere body form, but to what user? It's indeed dangerous. There will appear under the sight of an unknown existence without any protection. From there, they can be possessed, controlled, cursed, and corrupted. Klein sighed at the bottom of his heart. He wasn't worried that Miss Justice would abuse magic mirror divination, as she had the best and safest target to prey to. There was no need for her to seek anyone else, and that would be me. Klein retracted his fingers and sat at the end of the long bronze table and waited in silence for 20 to 30 seconds. Soon, he returned to the real world. He didn't stay too long since he was on the future. There was someone watching him from the dark. After leaving the bathroom and pulling away Azek's copper whistle and Will Acceptance paper crane, Klein glanced at the crimson moon, which had been shrouded by clouds. He pondered silently for a moment. He put it on his top hat, opened up the door, and went into the corridor. After taking a few steps forward, Klein deliberately slowed his footsteps and glanced at the first room on the left through the corner of his eyes. Based on his judgment, the mysterious pair of eyes that were slightly observing him and the deck turning the day was in that room. Klein walked slower and slower as he nearly stopped in front of the door. He didn't hide his exertion, and he left his palm as he reached for the handle when scenes naturally surfaced in his mind. Not far behind the door was a clothing rack and nothing hanging on it. Faint starlight scattered across the clean floorboard. There was a sense of solitude and serenity that lacked the aura of humans. The window had opened at some point in time as the sea breeze blew in from the outside, lifting the curtains which weren't too heavy. There was no one there. Klein had planned on probing the area, but he immediately retracted his left palm and walked towards the stairs, although nothing had happened. When he arrived on the deck and was talking in the cold night breeze, Klein strolled on the starboard with the cold and casual expression as though his main goal was to come out for a stroll. Suddenly he saw a man sitting ahead of him. The man was wearing dungarees and white shirt. Frank Lee. Klein didn't stop as he approached. The man sensed something as he turned his body halfway around and looked at the person approaching. He was none other than the poison expert Frank Lee, but he was no longer wore a smile. Streaming down the corners of his mouth was blood-red liquid. Klein pricked up his brows and saying without a word, Frank Lee suddenly raised his hand and grabbed the silver-scaled fish that wasn't struggling. He said in a depression, "It failed. Their lifespan is shorter than I imagined. It's impossible to breed them, even if they aren't planted in the ground." As he spoke, he raised the silver-scaled fish in his right hand and bit down on it. "That's good. Otherwise, I'm really afraid of the kind of ambitions you would create." "So you are drowning your stars with alcohol?" "No, fish." Klein silently heaved a sigh of relief. This will be the last chapter. I'll put the thing in the chat later. Like after we're done. The song, the music in the background in the chat. Yeah, I'll link it in the chat after. Cause I don't, yeah, like that's just what it is. Klein couldn't go against his word and wished to console Frank. Nor could he bring himself to tell Frank Lee that not being able to breed red wine fish is a good thing. All he could do is pretend that the trivial problems and not provide a promise. I will not forget. I promise I will not forget. Bring himself to Frank Lee that was not being able to breed out red wine fish was a good thing. All that he could do was pretend that the trivial problems and provide a response. He walked 2 steps diagonally and circled around the starboard before looking. I'll finish after this chapter. He walked 2 steps diagonally, circling around the starboard before looking at yeah, I'm okay. Undulating sea. By then the clouds high in the sky had tinted. The crimson dark moonlight brightened up in the rather dark night. In such an environment, Klein could see the nearby scenery. There was dark clouds that hung low, and he discovered a hurricane swishing back and forth. It caught me passing the unknown swath of the sea. Under the illumination of the silver lighting, fine rain danced amidst the wind, forming the scene of resemblance and dawn of the apocalypse. Such an interesting disaster, only a few nautical miles or even shorter from the future, but the future didn't seem affected. Only the wind had become a little stronger. This is the memory of a safe sea route that advanced by the side of the storm. Without a good navigator, just traveling normally might push the ship into disaster. Klein turned his head and looked out the ship was heading. He saw a little illumination from the fog behind emanate. The visibility is extremely low and used just the naked eye. Was very difficult to discern if they were in a danger or safe zone. Such situations weren't obvious west of the Orvie Island, but here it was common once they took a secret sea route. Klein was just about to retract his gaze, and he saw a black massive object seemingly hidden in the periphery of the storm. A sea monster. He suddenly recalled something of the rumors that he heard at different bars had been. My eyes just started tweaking out. I have like really sensitive eyes, and sometimes they'll tweak out a little bit. I should be wearing blue light glasses and like glasses, but I don't. After steering away from the safety sea routes, it's very easy to encounter all kinds of monsters. Some of them are behemoth and possess intense offensive powers. Once they suffer from the seas, they can finish it in one mouthful. The future didn't stop advancing. Before long, it's closed a gap between it and the gloomy and massive objects. Klein finally managed to discern the identity's appearance and discovered that it wasn't a sea monster, but a gigantic sailboat, which was even larger in the future. Sailboat was nearly 200 meters long, with its sailboat. Yeah. Well, I don't need prescriptions, like I have good eyesight, but I have, I have, like, just a sensitivity to, like, edges and corners. And if I, like, catch one and, like, light, so I should wear, like, tinted glasses and, like, blue light glasses. And I don't. The sailboat was nearly 200 meters long, with its bow and stern raised. It appears like a crescent. Its surface was black. The cannons were arranged in 3 rows. I don't know like the medical term for it, but it's called it's literally called sharp edge eye syndrome. And then the medical term for it is like Looming's disease, something like that. Apart from the massive portions extended from the deck in similarity to tall and massive, it was at least equivalent to 5-story building. The ship's most odd features was that only had 1 sail on it and the drawing of the black tomb. The death announcer, the heavy voice sounded in Klein's ears. At some point in time, Franklin had thrown the silver-scaled fish whose body had been replaced with Cammy, don't ever say that shit again. Yeah, even if I like picture sharp edges, it can like trigger. I don't know, it's weird. I've had it literally since I was born. That I actually was born with. Yeah. If I catch like a corner or something like that, it'll like bother my eyes. And then like it'll happen if I'm like more tired or if I catch light. So I should wear like blocking glasses, but also Cammy, that's fucking disgusting. And that like literally is gonna hurt. The only death announcement heavy voice sounded in Klein's ears. At some point in time, Franklin had thrown the silver-scaled fish whose blood had been replaced with red wine away from Broach's side. The first male was a bounty of 7,000 pounds. He held his head heavy and the muscle remained tense. It was as though an attack would be launched any time from the minute change from the gigantic sailboat. Death announcer Klein was taken aback before he recalled what the name represented. It was one of the most legendary and infamous ships on the 5 seas. That's literally what I mean. Like, that's literally what it's called. It's called I think it's called ocular Looming's disease is like the actual terminology for it, but it's called SEAS. Like it's called sharp edge eye syndrome. So if you like catch a corner or think of a corner or like do something, it like has pain or discomfort in your eye. I don't know. You can look it up. I've had it since I was a kid. I used to think I was fucking insane. Like I genuinely used to think I was fucking insane. And then as I got older, more people were like, oh no, like I have this too. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. It does happen when driving. It's really scary when it happens with driving. I have to like pull over sometimes. Or you just kind of like fight it and deal with it. We actually encountered one of the four kings. Klein clicked his tongue silently and uncontrollably entered a highly vigilant state. However, he maintained a superficial level of indifference and calm and continued looking at the death announcer. Recalling how the second mate of death announcer slaughtered Kirches, who had a bounty of 9,500 pounds. I am a trusted driver. No, I am a trusted driver. Like, I'm fine to drive. It's fine. Because, like, here's the thing. It's not, like, I'm not blind when it happens. It just hurts. So you just, like, deal with it. I'm really living life on hard mode. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I'm supposed to wear, like, because sleep can make it worse. And then lights can make it worse. Like, right now I normally have, like, a lamp or, a light over there, but I don't have it because the bulb went out, so I have to go get a new one. So I just have this lamp and this light and the computer light. So it's really reflecting on my eyes, and it's bothering them. And then I didn't get a good sleep last night, so they just like hurt a little bit, but that's fine. Dude, no, literally. I did one job. I did a laboring job, and I had to write in that I had it because I wasn't able to do certain things, or if like certain things happened and I like had to drop something and like look away. So I wasn't allowed to go in like certain areas of the boiler. Yeah. Her former enemies are all dead, regardless of where pirate adventurers are members of the naval fleet. Only the other 3 members of the Four Kings remain alive. He has never entered into direct combat with official demigods. He is extremely restrained in such matters. No one really knows his exact sequence. No one knows what his beyonder powers are. He's cruel by nature and enjoys killing. He can launch an attack on any person or any ship at random. He liked to find excuses. Fair enough. I'm finishing this chapter. He's cruel by nature and enjoys killing. He can launch an attack at any person and any ship at random. He liked to find an excuse and rip apart promises. Other than his nickname in King of Immortality, he had often nicknamed the Untrustworthy. Thankfully, I'm on the future. The King of Immortality will likely give Admiral Stars a free pass. After all, she's one of the 7 pirate admirals. No, the 4 kings of the pirate admirals can cooperate in odds normally. Apart from the pirate convention organization by the King of the 5 Seas with the King of Immortality's character, he might not leave any chance to survival. Just as this thought flashed through Klein's mind, he heard a deep, ruminating horn. Whoosh. The sailors who were resting and on the cabin joined awake immediately without wearing the clothes. They ran to different cannons on decks and made preparations to do battle, and future instantly went to the peaceful state in the combat one. Klein turned his head to look up and saw that the captain's window was already open. Catlia wore an unusually black dress as she stood there observant in the death announcer. She wasn't wearing any thick glasses, and her pitch black eyes were stained with some purple, making them mysterious and deep. Indeed, she's also worried about the sudden attack from the King of Immortality. Klein retracted his gaze and looked at the death announcer, which had a tail raised up. At this moment, the 2 ships had just passed each other by. The pirates could see their counterparts on the other ship. Similarly, those pirates who were looking over there maintained a silent resemblance of the statue, as though they had 0 emotional fluctuations, brandishing their knives and blowing their guns. They were being extremely provocative. At that moment, just a matchstick was enough to trigger the sense of nerves and begin a war. Finally, a death announcer didn't take any action. It continually silently anchored in the spot, watching the future pass by before it distanced itself. At Klein's side, Franklin didn't conceal his exhaustion. He produced a smile and said to Klein, There has always been many rumors about the King of Immortality's strength, other than that he's really a demigod, while others say he's only a Sequence 5. He is able to reach a level of a Sequence 4 thanks to Death Announcer. But regardless, he has lived long enough. Tell me, do you think crossbreeding him with my fishes would enhance their survivability? Frank suddenly had an idea. First, you need to capture the King of Immortality, otherwise make him interested in your fish, Klein lampooned before calmly saying, you can discuss it with him. Frank Lee was taken aback by the sigh, depressed. He wouldn't agree to it. He will plant me into the soil. Just as he said that, the Death Announcer, which had opened a gap with the future, suddenly returned its sails. The shrill laughter, which was filled with the malice sound from several hundred meters away, blanketed the future. The laughter resounded constantly. It switched from being hoarse to chaotic, sounding like ravings or singing at times. The sailors on the deck fell to the ground, one after another, after they tried hard to cover their ears, but all they could do was struggle in pain. The number of Beyonders began to produce the fish scales on their bodies. Klein is similarly affected. He felt that his brain was instinctively intact, and the kinds of thoughts that were the good, the bad, the bright, the dark, they were abnormally distorted, but they combined with the swelling changes laughter to produce swelling, feeling they could burst one's brain. Klein felt expression distort slightly as inconspicuous flesh tendrils began to start wiggling around his skin. If he hadn't experienced the true creator's ravings and Mr. Door's cry for help, or suffered similar torment when he passed the great fog each time, giving him a certain level of resistance, Klein would definitely be like poison expert Frank Lee, pressing his head, kneeling down in the focused expression, resisting the pain brought up by the terrifying laughter. Klein noticed some sort of orange hair was growing from Frank Lee's face, making him seem to transform into a bear. At that moment, the symbol of magic labels on Frank Future's wall decks and masks lit up. They became like a resplendency of stars and moonless nights. The terrifying laughter, which was even sharp or hoarse, didn't weaken, but everyone was distracted from one another in a second. The sound that came from the further distance away sounded empty and illusory. Klein's swelling head instantly received reprise as he used the rest of his strength to look up. Behind the opening windows in the captain's cabin, the Admiral's stars faced the additional trance of gloominess, and they looked like they were cracked apart at the moment, producing horrible items. At that moment, Catley's palms pressed down on the window still as bits of starlight swirled around her, seemingly matching Future, which was on the resplendent sea. The squall stirred for no reason as the ship began its own adjustment. Despite the Future having so many of its sailors down, it sped up instantly, and slowing down, it quickly opened the gates from the Death Announcer. Klein looked in the room, a mysterious pair of eyes that observed the deck. He discovered that the windows were rattling in the strong winds without any signs of abnormality. Amidst the strong wind, starlight descended to form the wrath of floating ice as they dragged further into the rapid flight. Finally, the Death Announcer vanished behind it. The terrifying laughter, which could make a person lose control or go mad, turned more illusory in distance. Frank Lee lowered his head and patted. Before barely recovering, many of the sailors on the deck were still trembling without straggling with extreme pain, but their condition didn't worsen. Their ability of the King of Immortality is truly impressive. There's almost no way to defending it. It's no wonder he's one of the four kings. Klein frowned slightly as he sighed. Although he was experienced and rather knowledgeable, this was the first time he was being directly attacked by a demigod of the true sense of the word. He discovered that even Agliato was ranked among the four kings, similarly made him feel weak, as though he was impossible to resist. With Aguilito's character will make the Death Announcer pursue us. Although there's a high chance he would wait for slaughter catchers to return, that possibility can't be excluded. If he chases up, I'll pray to myself as the sea god scepter and give him a maelstrom and thunderstorm to wipe him out. After making the decision he once again looked at Catlia. The pirate admiral's expression was already ghastly pale. However, there was no longer any signs of darkness. The starlight was twirled around her, slowly extinguished one after another. There you go. All done. We're going to finish here today. Chapter 645. How many? There's what? 700? I feel like I ask this every time. There's 740 chapters? I will read the next. 732. I'll read the next chapter. Sounds good. Yep. Okay. I'll read, this will be the last chapter. Chapter 6, 45. One more. We're doing one more. We're doing one more. It's okay, David, if you have to sleep, you can go sleep. You can always watch it another time. Okay, well, we'll do chapter 645. Because I have no problem. Yeah, honestly, Kemi spoke, so. I will read a little bit slower, because here's the thing, I was like, by the end of the chapter, and I started to notice I was doing it, and that's when I was like, okay, we kind of gotta stop. I was reading it, because in my head, I can read really fast. Obviously, I can't read really fast when I speak out loud, so I was starting to read it really fast in my head, and I was doing the thing where you're just like, but I was like trying to like say the words. Yeah, it just was not working. So I'll read a little bit slower this chapter. This will be the last one. Okay, chapter 645. Shockingly, I can read. Calming method. Following the complete disappearance of the surrounding astral glow, Catley lowered her head and said to Frank Lee, who was slowly recovering, "Let me calm down." She was referring to the sailors who were still struggling in pain. Just as she said that, Catley had shrunk her body back as the window closed. At this instant, Klein vaguely saw the green vine growing upwards, covering the Admiral stars in layers. As he didn't sense any danger or wickedness, he intrusively believed that it was a method in mysticism which Madame Hermit used to treat her injuries and recover her energy, power beyond her pathways, or is it from some mystical item she possessed? She began treatment without any worry and allowed Frank to deal with the chaos on the ship. She's not afraid that the death announcer would be able to chase up to us. How far did the future fly in the last pounce? Klein no longer held his neck up as he turned his face to look at Frank Lee. The first mate was both a poison expert and a capable doctor, had already revived a coiled soft tube from his pocket in the dungarees. It was connected to a small glass bottle on the other side and embedded thin, sharp needles. A sedative I concocted, Frank Lee said with a forced smile as he left off pangs of fear. I've brought something similar before. They were all given a zombie Merrick. Klein surveyed the area and said, "This might not be enough. No, it's not for them. I need a helper. They will revive the help with beer, which comes from the sedative effect. They're often rowdy once they're drunk, so I've added the necessary elements to most of the alcohol buckets," Frank explained in passing. Bye, have a good sleep. That's okay. That's so fair, dude. No, it's not for them. I need a helper. Buckets, Frank explained in passing. Spiking their drinks without any notice, Klein nearly twitched the corners of his mouth. At that moment, he had a deep appreciation for the apparentness of the nickname Poison Expert. Simply because he found the pirates rowdy when drunk, Frank had added the modified sedative to most of his alcoholic beverages without any sense of guilt or shame. It was as though he was doing something very ordinary. This fellow was really straight and warm person in certain aspects, but in other aspects he's more terrifying than the devil. This is because he doesn't believe that what he does is evil. How did the Church of Earth Mother produce such a crazy scientist? Klein contorted his expression and followed Frank Lee from the distance and found the boatswain Nina, who was squirming in the shadows of the bulkhead. This pirate with the extravagant vigor was slumped there, withering in pain. She kept scratching the deck, producing ear-piercing sounds as blood marks were left behind. Just watching the scene made Klein feel pain in his fingers. Garamond helped me press down to prevent her from struggling. Frank raised the needle and tube in his hand. Klein didn't object to her, but he didn't say a word. He calmly crouched to the side and pressed down on Nina's shoulder. He felt the hands slip the moment he touched her, finding it difficult to grab her. It was as though she wasn't a lady, but a gigantic fish covered in slippery scales. Klein instantly corrected his actions using the clown's precise control. He gripped Nina firmly on the shoulders. However, Nina's struggling was slightly stronger, far greater than Klein's. Soon, He felt his fingers turn sore as he couldn't hardly continue. As expected, a sequence 7 Beyonder from the Sailor pathway. While I'm not a Beyonder who excels when it comes to physical strength, if not for the need to find it, I can activate Craving Hunger and switch to steal Mavetti's soul and use the strength of the zombie as a most suitable response. As these thoughts ran through his mind, Klein saw Frank approach, crouch down, and press his knee to Nina's back. His muscles bulged as he quickly stopped Nina's struggling. Beyond it from the planter pathway is quite a lot of physical strength as well. However, Mr. Frank Lee isn't probably difficult to you as a girlfriend. Isn't probably difficult for you to get a girlfriend if you use such crude manners against a lady. Of course, you definitely don't mind. You could totally let your children grow from the soil. Klein lampooned as he watched Frank Lee interject the needle into the back of Nina's hand. As a small bottle of sedatives was injected, Nina stopped and attempted to struggle. Klein released his hand and stood up. After a few seconds, Nina combed her hair and rolled her to her feet. She grumbled faintly, "Why must you always be so rough like a bear? Can't you try a different method?" As she spoke, she stretched her arms without concealing the pained expression on her face. Unlike the dive from earlier, she was now wearing a linen shirt and brown coat. She looked no different from an ordinary pirate. Frank wasn't fazed by Nina's complaints as he asked in puzzlement, "How was I rough? All right, let's not argue on this topic. Let's help them first. Get the beer barrel out. Let's work together and make them drink." "Garamond, you don't mind participating in this, right?" Klein shot a glance at the sailor on the deck. After contemplating a few seconds, he asked, "The goal is to let them calm down." "That's right." Frank Lee nodded heavily. "Can I just knock them unconscious?" Klein asked calmly. "This has almost the same effect as sedative pear." "And it's more effective," he added inwardly. Klein turned her head in surprise and was momentarily stunned and speechless. Frank Lee thought seriously for a moment. "Okay. All right." Klein walked to the cutlass and had long notice picked it up. He used the dull edges to strike it at its owner. Bang! Although the precise control of the pirate was rolling in pain, calmed down, and felt unconscious. Nina expressed frozen for a second before she recovered. She then slowed down. Passing by Klein, she suppressed her laughter and she said, "I've heard rumors of you, but I never expected you to be more extravagant than the rumors. Usually it should be the opposite." "Yes, your thoughts are very, very special, completely different from the others, and they're closer to those of Frank's. This is probably why he's able to treat you as a friend in such a short time. No, there's no difference among lunatics. Garamond Sparrow hadn't reached the level of Frank yet." Klein observed silently and he gave a reply inward. He ignored Nina and held the cutlass and walked across the deck, knocking the sailors unconscious and waiting for them to wake up naturally. Frank wished to do the same, but he gave up his rash thoughts. When he was asked by Nina if he could guarantee that he only knocked them unconscious instead of killing them, he entered the cabin and brought out a beer barrel and acted according to the original plan. Bam, bam, bam. Klein struck as he walked all the way to the bow. At that moment, an elder in his 50s with a pointed bonnet had gradually come around. When he saw the cold and crazy adventurer approach, he hurriedly tried to stand up and blurt out, "No, I don't need it. I'm already fine. I'm fine." "There's no need to explain. It's very clear." Klein held back his amusement and turned for the bow. At that moment, the elder introduced himself. In Navigator of the Future, Autolove. Navigator? Klein turned his head and discovered several books dropping around the Autolove. They were either spread on the ground, face up or down, flat or sideways. I fell from above and brought them with me. They nearly went mad," Autolove explained. Klein stiffened his gaze towards him and discovered the colors of the deep sea in the blue eyes. "It's not the pair of eyes that were observing me that day, but this feeling is somewhat similar to the Admiral stars. They were the same pathway." Klein retracted his gaze. He watched Nina and frankly calm the other sailors. Just as he was about to look back and see that the death announcer had continued to pursuit, Autolove suddenly shouted, "Be careful!" A huge wave struck bow, causing the Future to shake vigorously. It's not a bouncing ability as a clown. Klein would have fallen like Frank. And when the huge spray pattered down like rain, it drenched his top hat and double-breasted frock coat. There should be a steam iron here, right? The act of the crazy adventurer washing his clothes doesn't violate his persona. It's weird. If he doesn't wash his clothes, I should have worn clothes in the style of the Roast Archipelago natives. At the instant, Klein felt a series of heartache. He saw the storm ahead of the huge waves coming one after another as they surged high up like the mountains. He couldn't sense the crazy winds and rumbling thunder. We've come to the boundaries of the safe sea routes. The flight just from now might have allowed us to lose the Death Announcer's tail, but it was also derived from the ship from this path. Klein watches Ordelov, Nina, and Frank, as well as the bloodless Heath Doyle, who has appeared at some point in time, wake up the sailors as they took their places. They frantically and buzzily begin to steer the future. Although their hard work and future-changing directions in time tore through the gigantic waves and dodged the bolts of lightning before returning to the safe sea route. After everything calmed down, Klein raised to charm from the sea god domain and breathed a sigh of relief. Looking back, he saw no signs of Death Announcer's pursuit. He finally eased up and found that there were nothing he could calm about the night. After surveying the area and seeing the pirates rub their heads or gasp for breath, looking exhausted on the brink of collapse, Klein left the deck feeling a slight guilty conscience. He walked to the cabin and sighed inwardly. We just left the Gargus Archipelago recently, and the ship was nearly destroyed. The search for mermaids really doesn't seem simple. Following the staircase to the upper level, Klein walked past the captain's cabin and slowly down. He observed for a moment as he saw green leaves covering the crack in the door. Everything was isolated. He shifted his gaze and returned to his room. He considered this matter of praying to the fool before going above the grey fog, grasped the nearby waters in search for the trace of the death announcement. By responding, he waited to let the King of Immortality, Agalito, who attacked others for no baffling reason, to experience the same treatment he did. No, there are eyes watching. I should try my best not to do such things. Besides, I will only teach the King of Immortality a lesson and not to seriously injure him. It's not worth the risk. I shouldn't let my anger get the better of my rationality. I'll think about it again after advancing successfully. Klein repressed his urges. And that is all. And that's all. Thanks so much for coming. We're gonna stop here. Stop hanging up. Fair enough, man. I was reading. We're gonna stop here. I'll pick it back up tomorrow. I think, how many chapters did we get through? We got through, did we do 10 chapters today? I know, music link in chat. I will put music link in chat. We might have done 10 chapters. I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, good luck on your exam. I will put the music link in chat. I will see you guys tomorrow. Oh, not 10. Okay, well, we were close. Bye-bye. I'll see you guys.